Like most of you know, if you're watching this particular video, Ninja Theory some time ago uploaded a significant update for Senua's Saga Hellblade II. Not only did they release the game for PlayStation consoles, but they also brought the first game to the PS5, and they added several additions to the second game like performance modes and more graphical enhancements and so on. But aside of those tweaks and fixes, they added 3 significant additions to the game. The first one is the commentaries. Commentaries are self-explanatory. We all know what they are. I've never been a huge fan of them in either movies or video games because I don't like mixing playtime with research. But commentaries can be interesting once in a while because they feed you with creative insight from the same developers of whatever media you're consuming, so for those that enjoy this kind of thing, there you go. The second thing is enhancements to photo mode. I love photo modes in video games. I like taking pictures in real life, and I enjoy doing so in games as well. I had a blast with the photo mode in this game when I first played it, and it was already a robust system then, so it's obviously a good thing that they have expanded it and given us even more tools to play around with. The biggest addition that I noticed is that you can now animate your pictures even more. You can have the camera move around the picture, zoom in, zoom out. You can play tracks and add special effects. It's more like Ghost of Tsushima's photo mode, which permitted stuff like this. Photo mode not only serves as a good way for taking pictures, but now it's great for creating B-roll. As a content creator who used this program to create B-roll for previous videos, I can't stress enough how great these additions are. The third and most impactful addition is the return of the Dark Rot from the original game, only that this time it's optional and works for real. Dark Rot was one of the most debatable aspects of the first game. This is something that the original game introduces early on when you die for the first time, telling you that if the rot extends all the way from your hand to your head, Senua's sanity will be lost forever and so will your progress. This is something that actually was not real. A lie that Tami Antoniades purposefully added to the narrative of the game to instill a false sense of dread in the player and make them feel as unstable as the character they are embodying. Many of the perils in Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice are imaginary, internal struggles within Senua's head, and the Dark Rot embodies that struggle and how the character is slowly sinking more and more within her own madness. That is why the rot expands the more she advances in her quest, instead of the other way around, and it is only after she yields her lost cause that the rot leaves her alone. Now, some players didn't like the idea of losing their progress in the game. Other players, on the other hand, were underwhelmed after they realized that the mechanic was false because it stole a lot of stakes away from the experience. The reality is that if this game had implemented a system like that for real, the game wouldn't have been as successful as it turned out to be. Permadeath modes are fun because they are optional, not forced. 8 years later, Ninja Theory achieved a good middle ground in the sequel. Dark Rot is not canonically present in the game because it no longer makes sense within Senua's story. She is, after all, past this. But it can make for an interesting challenge. This mode gives you 4 lives. It can also make combat more difficult. Enemies are more aggressive, more likely to grab you and attack you with unblockable attacks. Another significant difference in this mode is that you carry the damage earned in the last battle to the next, no auto-healing after the fight is over, as it usually is in the main game. I don't know if this is real or if it was just me rusty after not playing this game for almost a year now, but I could insist that the parry window is even tighter with this mode activated. But don't quote me on this. It's not like I was perfect at parrying in this game in the first place, so again, don't quote me on this. The thing is that if you die 4 times, it's game over. For real this time. I died the first time at this point. I had to retry the fight, and the second time I could defeat him without issues, but then I reached the brick wall we all know as Thorgestr. Thorgestr is a tough fight even on the easier difficulties. I always felt this guy as the toughest battle in the entire game. Thorgestr is one of the few enemies throughout the entire game that attacks you with all types of attacks. Light, heavy, unblockable. He is very fast, and he can also parry your attacks the moment he starts reading you. That way, Thorgestr ends up being a sort of rite of passage in this game. If you can defeat this guy so early in the story, you can basically defeat anything else afterwards, including the goalie at the ending. This is even more evident when you play with the Dark Rod activated, because now your mistakes are permanent. It so happens that this guy, that interesting character that inspired me to write an entire video exploring his wasted potential, now wiped the floor with me not just once, not just twice, but thrice, triggering the game over screen and finishing my newest playthrough before even starting. No hard feelings, Thorgestr. I still like you and think the writers wasted your potential. In any case, I came back the next evening for some serious payback. Now, the question is, if this update makes the game worth buying to the people that didn't buy it on release. The answer is up to you and how much you care for this story, the characters, and the studio making the game. If you have already played the game and didn't like it then, this update will change nothing. In any case, no one's buying Hellblade for a permadeath mode and a few additions to photo mode. The game is still the same, and if you care for this story and the characters, you have most likely already bought and played the game. These additions are more for fans of the game rather than to attract new players or fix the program for those that played but didn't like it. The game is not longer now. There are no new story additions within the update. Nothing that adds or continues the already established story. That being said, it is still good that Ninja Theory are sticking to their product instead of dropping it and moving on to the next big thing. I think this update is important, despite its size, and even more so for a game like this. When it comes to AA narrative-driven experiences, studios seem shy in treating them like games worth expanding. It's almost snobbish in attitude. They want to separate themselves so much from the live service thing that they end up falling into the opposite mistake. This is something that I talked a long time ago in that Plague Tale video, in which I insisted that the second game would benefit of having a DLC with alternate endings that reward different playstyles, almost in a Dishonored kind of way, a game from which Asobo Studio clearly took inspiration from, and other games like Shadwen. Games like this are so special on one hand, yet so dull and boring on the other hand. And the saddest thing is that these developers do it on purpose. These snobbish developers follow at heart Neil Druckmann's pretentious quote, "Fun is not a word we use," to the point that they are always shying from doing fun and interesting things with their games. It's almost like narrative-driven experiences need to be dull and boring in order to be taken seriously. But it doesn't have to be like that. In fact, it wasn't like that. The Last of Us used to have a multiplayer mode, and so did the Uncharted games. More recently, Ghost of Tsushima introduced the Legends mode, and for all accounts so will the sequel. Even more recently, God of War Ragnarok added the Valhalla DLC, which not only served as a sort of epilogue for the main campaign, but also added a roguelike mode for the game, fixing some of the replay value issues some people have argued the main campaign can have. And these are all story-driven games, made by the same people that inspired plenty of the AA studios like Ninja Theory and the Asobo Studio. Even The Last of Us Part 2, the game that was made by people that prided themselves for making a game that wasn't fun, recently released the No Return mode, another roguelike, added to a linear story-driven experience that has ironically turned into the livelihood for such a controversial game. The main reason why so many people are still playing it even when they didn't like the story. Naughty Dogs have recently added new maps and characters to that mode, which is always nice, and even more recently, they added a chronological order mode to the story. Next thing they have to do is add Tess, Owen and Sam and Henry to the No Return, and if they, one day, give us the ability to save Joel and kill Abby, all the better. Even Rockstar are investing on their long-abandoned Red Dead Online, and Ubisoft is apparently going to add more content to Assassin's Creed Mirage, a game that came out in 2023, so why can't narrative-driven AA games do the same thing? I wish Asobo Studio had given me alternate endings, and or perhaps other DLC stories, like a story in which we play as Lucas with Beatrice, and explore what happened with these two during the time they were separated from Amicia and Hugo. Or a DLC exploring Sophia's past and her relationship with Arno. Now, this idea is, partially, what their next game is going to be, and I hope they actually build on the character of Sophia and the gameplay potential the character can have, because that was one of my issues with the Plague Tale Requiem, that it developed so little from the first game, but it was almost twice as long and expensive. That game was, basically, a rehash of Innocence, with bigger maps, an insanely bad combat system that removed the very useful dodge mechanic in favor of a pretty useless melee attack, and of course, the game, like most sequels do, also nerfed a lot of systems like Amicia's alchemy and Hugo's macula powers. Because the developers were lazy and lacking creativity, they decided to ignore all the skills, power, and experience the characters had developed by the ending of the first game in order to cash grab with a sequel for half the work and twice the price, because this is obviously easier and more cost-effective than actually build on what was established in the first game, story-wise and gameplay-wise. Like the game or not, the reality is that the gameplay experience was all too similar to the original game. Instead of developing on what the characters already know and can do, we have them relearning the same tricks in pretty similar situations with very similar boss fights. The overhyped new weapons of this game are, in truth, reskinned alchemical tricks from the first game, and Hugo's playable parts are shorter and less engaging than they were in the first game. It's funny that people in the same year criticized God of War Ragnarok for being too samey to the 2018 reboot, yet ignore that Requiem was even more similar to Innocence in all the wrong ways. I guess mediocrity is called masterpiece when the developers are indies. I hope this new game provides a fresh experience because they are selling it like a new game instead of a DLC. I hope stealth is improved. I hope AI is better. I hope there is actually a real combat system in this game, and for the love of God, spare me the fucking rats in this one. A Plague Tale 1 and 2 gave us rats ad nauseum. This franchise is a great example of the less is more syndrome. If you can only make 5 rat encounters interesting, then just make 5 rat encounters, not 17 or 25. The first game wasn't long enough to outstay its welcome, but the second game not only outstays its welcome, but makes you hate everything you loved about the first game, including the rats. All rat encounters started the same way, rats erupting from the ground, and were resolved in basically 3 ways. Turn the lights on so the rats scurry away, throw them some meat so they eat it and leave you alone, or slight variation, throw some alchemical shit to lead the rats away for a few seconds before they return all too soon and eat you raw. Since I doubt Asobo Studio have any idea on how to make rats interesting a third time around, I would seriously advise them not to use them in this next game. In any case, this is a prequel and I doubt Sophia met another carrier before Hugo, so please, spare us the rats. Ninja Theory are still my favorite AA developers because instead of spitting out another full-priced game, they are still expanding the one they have, increasing its worth and giving us updates that expand the replay value of the game for free. No microtransactions, no useless Protector DLCs, quality content that improves the game without asking for a single penny. That's how you do it. And if you ask me, I would say, go ahead, continue down this road. Give us more to do in Hellblade II. Give us an arena mode, so that we can fight increasingly tougher enemies for as long as we can before dying. Let us play with the outfit from the original game, along with its war paint, or the war paint used in the Sea Giant battle, or the war paint for evil Senua at the climax. It's funny that this warpaint was so hyped early in the development of the game, but the end product only uses it briefly at the ending. Some fans are even asking for more story content, a DLC following the events of Hellblade II, or something that expands the already existing game. And I agree with them. I would love to have Hellblade 3 one day, but until then, you can build on what you already have here. You already have an engine, a solid combat system and beautiful graphics that will remain relevant for a pretty long time, so do something with them. Hellblade 2 is one of those games that you wait a long time for them to come out, and when they finally do, you play them, you enjoy most of the experience, and then it's over. Now you have to wait 5 or 7 more years for the studio to make the next game with a nagging feeling that they will focus on all the unimportant things like graphics, instead of improving on the criticisms aimed at their previous game, like gameplay or lack thereof, and playtime. So this update, short as it is still a good sign, and I hope they continue down this road. It's time we start reinvesting on single-player games again. Live service games are boring, and they've dominated the market for too long, and when we get a single-player game once in a while, it is one of these snobbish games that refuse to be fun and approachable. There used to be a time in which single-player games were exciting deals. They had solid campaigns, cool multiplayer modes, expansion packs that actually improved on the main game's shortcomings, inventive challenge modes, and some of them actually came for free. This is without mentioning the modding communities, which also expanded the durability of these games for many years. When you buy a game like Batman Arkham Knight, you know you're gathering months or even years of single-player content. When you buy games like Skyrim, not only are you buying years of worth of content, but also a portal into some of the best mods ever made. I understand that most of my comparisons here are AAA games, which naturally have more budget to invest on expansions and multiplayer modes. But AA's are a thing now, and they, along with indie games, have ushered the gaming renaissance in recent years. Plenty of AA games have gotten expansions and updates. A game like Baldur's Gate 3 was frequently updated by Larian Studios, listening to player feedback and improving the game in a lot of aspects. Games like Lies of P got a DLC recently that, as far as I know, was well received by critics and players alike, and, mark my words, Expedition 33 will sooner or later get its DLC as well. Many indie and AA games are doing it, and so can Ninja Theory in their own unique way. But this is my opinion. I now pass the topic on to you. Are you satisfied with this update? Would you like to see more added to this game? What type of additions would you like to see included? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say about this. I will certainly continue covering this program in the future, so like and subscribe if you want to see more. You can also watch the video on screen in which I go more in depth on Hellblade 2 as a program and the sequel to the first game. Have a good time, and as always, stay safe.